How's it going, everyone? Matt, Leighton, Shawn, Battle. Welcome back to another real estate video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a lawsuit that is pretty significant, some would say, and others would say it is not significant whatsoever. It is the Realtor class action lawsuit. Shawn, I know you have a lot to say about it. I'm excited to dive into the subject. Shawn, how's everything going on your end?
Things are good. The market is not cooling down. I thought it would. I don't think we're seeing the inventory that we normally see at this time of year, which is just causing this influx of buyers staying there, prices going up. I mean, I thought it was going to weed out a little bit, but it hasn't.
You thought it was going to slow down, stabilize?
I did, yeah. And it hasn't yet. So it's actually gotten, I think, maybe even a little more competitive.
More competitive?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
You had 9 offers?
9 offers.
9 offers.
It's ridiculous. I was expecting
insane.
3 or 4 offers. We got 9.
Yeah.
So super competitive. Buyers are doing crazy stuff to get these places.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. I mean, it's the market.
Yeah, I put a property under contract last week, and my buyer said, hey, can we close in June? And I said, probably not, but you're the only offer, so let's do it. And they just accepted the offer off the bat. So that was in Alexandria. So maybe depending on where you're looking, the properties may or may not be negotiable. But what we're talking about today is the Realtor lawsuit. And the way that we came up with this topic is it's been floating around. And I actually went to the bar the other week, and this guy was talking to me about it, the Realtor lawsuit. He's just some random dude at the bar. He's like, oh man, I feel sorry for you. Like your industry, man, I just feel for you. And I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna hear this guy out. He's like, yeah, man, prices are fixed, and it's not competitive, and he's just naming. So basically what this lawsuit states is that some homeowner is suing Realogy, Remax, Keller Williams. And by the way, neither of us are lawyers, right? We're not attorneys. We're not here to give legal advice. We're just here to share our experience on what's happening with this class action lawsuit against real estate agents. So a company is filing a lawsuit against a lot of big brokerages. And basically what it states is that commissions are fixed and sellers are paying an inflated buyer broker amount to the buyer agency. That is the gist of the lawsuit. Do you think I covered the gist of it?
Yep. So there's one home seller that says that, hey, I feel like you guys are overcharging and that it's a fixed commission. And,
right.
First of all, the way this all works is when we sign a listing agreement, there's a commission split that's signed into that agreement.
Yeah.
And it says what the listing agency is going to take and then what that listing agency is going to pay the buyer's agency.
Yeah.
Right? So in the listing agreement, it's fixed already once they sign it. And my first thing is, if you don't like it, don't sign it, right?
It's fixed how?
It's fixed in the way that we're saying what is going to be paid out on the MLS.
It's a blank space.
It's a blank space that we can fill in. There's nothing that says, hey, you have to pay this amount out. Go ahead.
So the first thing that I wrote down was, I'll list and link the article down below. It's from Forbes. It says that there is an NAR, a NAR, a National Association of Realtors, commission rule that every seller has to pay out 2.5% or 3%, which strikes me as funny. It's like, if it's a rule, shouldn't it just be one of those two options? But I've never heard of this rule. This rule does not exist to my knowledge. And that was the first thing that they were going off of, a commission rule. I mean, that just screams antitrust.
Yeah, there is no rule that I know of. I've never, ever talked about buyer agency commissions with anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been doing this 16 years. We are not talking about what the payout is going to be. You just look at the market and you see what the other ones are paying out, and you try to pay what they're paying out, right? I mean, so, the truth is, what I always equate it to is like fishing. I always equate everything to fishing. It's like a lure, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna put just a hook out there and just start snagging things, you might catch one every once in a while. But if you're gonna put a nice shiny lure out there that says, hey, this is what we're gonna pay you, then you're gonna get a lot of more people. And the reason that is, maybe some people might say, oh, well, you agencies are just going after the higher commissions. Well, no. I never even look at them, to be honest. But we sign a buyer-broker agreement. So there's a law now that we have to have a signed buyer-broker agreement, and in that buyer-broker agreement, it says what the buyer's commission, what the commission's going to be paid to us.
Yeah.
So, in essence, if you are paying, if my agreement says, Matt, you're the buyer, you're going to pay me a 3% commission. Let's just call it whatever it is, right? You're going to pay that. Well, what happens if that listing is paying out 2%?
Right.
Where you got to come up with a percent, because I'm not working for less than what I deserve, right? So that's how it's maybe kept up.
Yeah.
Because I'm not working for free.
Right.
You're not working you don't want to work for free. It's the same in any industry, right? So
on the sense of, fishing, casting out a lure, all right, you're going to pay out this much. If the commission is higher, let's just say, for example's sake, let's just be hypothetical here. If most places are paying out 2.5%, as an example, if you see a place that pays out 4%, are you going to convince your buyer to go there? Like, if your buyer doesn't want to go there in the first place, are you going to? So what I'm getting at here is that additional compensation. Like, there's a condo on the market in Courthouse at the Odyssey that was paying out, what, 4%, 4.5%? Did that ever sell? No.
If you're not priced right, you're not going to sell, right? I can't push my buyer and say, you need to buy this one because it's paying out 4%. I don't even look at the buyer brokerage commission.
What I'm getting at is, I countering Shawn's point a little bit. I don't know if additional compensation, like, hey, buyer broker addition of $5,000 if we have a closed settlement. The buyer is either going to want the property or not. I don't think that an additional $5,000 or 1% or whatever the payment. I was just touring a brand new construction home. 3%, it's $3 million house. It's always funny that the most expensive houses pay out the highest percentages usually. But they were like, hey, we're doing 3%, but we're doing an additional 1%, so 4% if you bring us a buyer by this amount. Like, listen, like I'll bring you a buyer. It's not because you have the additional 1%. It's just like, if I have the buyer, I'm going to bring you the buyer.
That's right.
So getting into the next point on the list is the seller paying the buyer broker. So one of the biggest things in this lawsuit was saying, hey, listen, the seller has to pay the buyer broker. That is the rule. That's what realtors are doing. They're scamming us. They are forcing the seller to pay the buyer broker, which is false, because the seller doesn't pay the buyer broker. The seller pays the listing brokerage, and then the listing brokerage has the option. It's not mandatory. They have the option to pay the buyer broker a certain percentage. That can be whatever percentage that they want. I've seen it for 5%. I just saw one the other day in Shirlington for 1%. It was like everything about that listing. They had misspellings. It spelled Crystal City wrong. They have blurry pictures. But hey, you can put in 4 blurry pictures and misspelled words, pay out 1%.
And see what happens,
Or
right?
you could do like 100 pictures. You could write a soliloquy as your property description, as someone in DC does, and then pay out 6%. So the fact that the seller has to pay the buyer broker is completely false.
Completely false.
So the next item on the list of why this is a lawsuit against real estate agents is the lawsuit states that this practice of forcing sellers to pay for the buyer broker limits competition, so that not many brokerages can exist, and all the brokerages are kind of working together to limits competition. We see new brokerages pop up almost every week. What's cool?
Different schemes, different ways of doing things. I mean, I think our business is one of the most competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's after that dollar, right? So I mean, like, there's money to be made in real estate, but it's not easy either. People think we just make Yeah.
There are so many different models and broker ways to make. I could open up a shop tomorrow and say, hey, I'm 1%, or I could open up a shop and say, hey, I'm 10%. I don't know how much business I'd get on the 10% end, but the fact that this claims to limit competition, we see hundreds of different, whether it's mom and pop or big brokerages or virtual brokerages, pop up every single week and every single month in the area that limits competition struck me as odd.
Yeah, and with a different way of paying out commission or a different way of making money, you know, so it could be a flat fee, it could be all kinds of, there's so many different things out there, but in the end, it's who you want to use, who you feel comfortable with, and who's going to do the best job for you, right? So I'm not a flat fee person. It's just the way I do my business, but I also am on the phone and working all the time, and I go above and beyond, and you know that's just the nature of our business. That's the way I've grown up in the business. I'm not going to go and just put a place on the MLS for somebody for nothing because I'm not doing a service for you. I'm hired to do a service, and you're going to pay for my service. You're going to pay for my 16 years of knowledge, and you're going to pay for my knowledge of the area and the business. I mean, it's just like a lawyer, right? Are you going to hire the newbie lawyer that doesn't know how to do anything, or the guy that has been doing cases and winning cases over and over again?
Do you want to hire the cheapest lawyer?
The cheapest lawyer? Hey, if your life depends on it, you signing with that guy, or are you going with the guy that has a reputation of selling or getting cases done, right? I mean, you could go into any industry and say, what's your next point? I don't want to cover.
No, you're not. It's not.
Like you could go into any industry and just say, hey, you're inflating the prices due to anything, right? Due to your commissions, you're inflating the prices of homes. Well, you could go to McDonald's and say, well, you're paying now $15 an hour. You're inflating the price of my burger. Everything, right? Engineers, right? I don't know if this guy's an engineer or not. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But the guy that's suing. But you could say, well, to do a new home, I need an engineer to create this floor plan for me. But you're inflating the price of my new home. So I'm not going to do that. I mean, you have an option. You have a choice. You know your choices and go with the one you feel comfortable with.
And I think because we're in such a hot market, what you always see is downward pressure on commissions. Like, hey, I'm going to list it this weekend and I'm going to get 5 offers. Like, what's the value there? So in hot markets, you always see this pressure, whereas once things start to equalize a little bit, I think commissions will start to rise again.
Yeah, and the thing is, another thing to think about is in a hot market, I can just throw my property on the market and it'll sell, right? Okay, maybe, right? So I'll give you an example. Would you take, say you price your place at $500,000 and you got an offer right away at $510,000 cash. Would you take it? You probably would. But in this instance, you'd be stupid to do that because I could have just got you 9 offers and gotten you way above that price. So, it's all relative, right? It's all relative. And back in the day when the market was super hot, I remember builders weren't paying a commission. And truthfully, people could just go in and write their own contract and you'd be bound by this builder contract that you know nothing about. But then when tough times come, it all comes full circle again, In easy times like this, well, not easy times, when the market's hot, it's funny, you actually see a lot of realtors pull out because it's so tough to get a buyer in, right? They're no longer able to stay in the business because they're not making any money because their buyers are in such competition and they start falling out and everybody starts falling out. So
I like to think that builders and developers maybe know a little bit more than regular folk. I mean, sometimes you hear the stories, they go bankrupt, but there's a builder or developer in Arlington that's paying out the 3% commission. And again, I don't want to get into, all the commissions should be this amount, but they're paying out a significant commission for buyer's agents. And you have to think, well, if we're in the hottest market ever and you're a builder, don't you want to save money and not pay out a full commission? Well, maybe they're seeing the value of the buyer's agent and paying out the full 3% commission.
That's right. I mean, it's all about the value, all about what you get for your money, right? Truthfully, and that's the real in any industry.
Yeah,
it drives me crazy.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit. Hopefully, you got a quick primer. Going back to the dude I met at the bar at Don Tito Rooftop, he was like, this is the same company that took out, or the same law firm that took out Big Tobacco. Like, I don't know what you guys are gonna do. I'm like, dog, that was like 25 years ago. It's like, cigarettes kill you. Like, we're just trying to help people with their lives and help them in their livelihood. So.
Yeah, and truthfully, hey, you can go sell your property by yourself.
Yeah.
There's a thing called a FSBO, right? Yeah. A lot of people try to do it, and then I talk to those people, and they're like, I will never do this again. There's a lot that you don't know about selling real estate, so don't try to do it. I'm not going to go try to sell pharmaceuticals. I don't know anything about pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah.
So just stay in your business. Let us do the work for you.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, stay in your lane. I mean, there is no colluding with how much we're paying out. It's just it's non-existent.
This is why agents are paying NAR to squash this lawsuit and to carry on with our day.
That's
so
right.
it's definitely gonna be interesting to see, because a lot of people have certain feelings about real estate agents. So very curious to see how this shakes out. Hopefully in this video you learned a quick thing or two from the real estate perspective on what we feel are legitimate and not legitimate claims in this lawsuit. For Shawn and for myself, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.